Will XRP dethrone Bitcoin? XRP, in my opinion, is at such a crucial position right now. And when I say crucial position, I don't mean it in a bad way. No, I actually mean it in a sense that XRP is holding a position that is to be envied by any other altcoin in this space. That position is the fact that XRP is now being marketed to institutional players in a big way through institutional DeFi initiatives, number one. Number two, tokenization on the XRP ledger is starting to heat up because of a lot of the tokenization initiatives being promoted by Ripple. On top of that, right now, we also know that Ripple has over 1,700 NDAs to tap into blockchain-based payments and initiatives, which means we go back to XRP and the XRPL. And we also know that XRP has regulatory clarity on top of the fact that adoption around XRP is only growing more and more. We really kind of look at what's been happening with like the Hidden Road acquisition from Ripple, RLUSD. So when we think about that crucial position that XRP is in, it's in a position to absolutely dominate this space. And I do think that it will, especially going forward as more and more regulatory discussions are ongoing and start to kind of become a reality around crypto, which only reinforces cryptocurrencies like XRP. So let's actually talk a little bit about this. We have here from Smoke Dog. Remember, XRP only needs to 20x to dethrone Bitcoin. This is documented by Wisdom Tree. Now, a 20x when we are at, XRP's level is not just a easy feat, right? It's a little bit challenging, but we have to match Bitcoin's market capitalization. XRP's price would need to increase more than 20x from its current levels. This monumental challenge underscores Bitcoin's entrenched dominance and unique value. Now, they do outline the transaction speed and throughput, but also they talk about the road ahead. So for XRP to rival Bitcoin's $1.9 trillion market cap, transformative shifts would be essential. Number one, mass adoption. XRP must see a surge in usage for payments, remittances, and other applications. Regulatory clarity, favorable regulations could attract more institutional investment. Ecosystem expansion, new partnerships and innovations extending XRP's utility beyond payments. And then market sentiment, a broader pivot towards altcoins over Bitcoin. Now, of course, during alt season, that could definitely happen. But also leading up to alt season, I do think that we get regulatory clarity for XRP specifically. In terms of mass adoption, might be a little bit off still, but the ecosystem is definitely expanding. I don't think I need to even tell you guys that. You've been noticing a lot of the updates over the last couple of weeks from Ripple, which really kind of tells us everything that we need to know about the future of XRP. But outside of that, we also have over here from Digital Asset Investor, which really kind of confirms my thought process as well, which is regulations end the Bitcoin regulatory monopoly and bring in a utility market for the first time ever. That Bitcoin dominance can disappear quicker than people think. And yeah, it can. We watched it, in fact, back in 2021, go from like 70+% quickly down to 40% in roughly like the span of, I would argue, maybe 4-6 weeks. It was that fast. And, even today, when we think about market dominance, when we think about the shift that could happen at any moment, altcoins could quickly steal the show. But also all it really takes is one big announcement around XRP. And all of a sudden you have XRP, rallying against Bitcoin and ultimately rivaling its dominance as well. But outside of that, I did make a post back in January of this year, which I said, if you think that the Bitcoin maxis are crying now, just imagine what they will do when the following happens. XRP ETFs approved and begin trading. XRP flips Ethereum again. Banks use Ripple's custody solution for various use cases, including tokenization, because SAB 121 was repealed. Also, we know that the OCC did approve crypto. The FDIC approved crypto. The Fed even approved crypto. US banks announced that they will use XRP. XRP begins to clear a path to rally against and potentially flipping Bitcoin. Utility becomes the main driver of value, proving how ridiculous the store value claim is for a volatile asset like Bitcoin. Maxis can continue to push baseless claims. However, this space has dramatically changed over the years, supporting the utility narrative even more. The fear, hate, and jealousy on the timeline are all the proof you need to understand what's happening and what's coming. Enjoy the show. And yes, I still think to this day that this is 100% facts. Once we have the XRP ETFs approved it's game over. I think that XRP flips Ethereum. On top of that, I think that we start to see banks tapping in. And I also think that we start to see big announcements happening from big banks. And then outside of that, we start to see XRP really rallying. And we might even rally against Bitcoin in a big way. That will be a very crazy time to really kind of focus on XRP. It's just kind of seeing some of these things align perfectly for it. Now, what's the time frame on this? We don't really have one. But one thing that is very clear is that specific players from Ripple, like Monica Long, have given us an insight into the fact that they do have a significant amount of institutional players tapping in already. We have Monica Long explains Ripple custody banking partners utilizing their services for tokenization of real world assets and advising them on their go-to-market strategy. She mentions the payments business to continue being the core of all financial services on chain. Check this out.
So yes, there's the opportunities there, and it's coming together. I would say the other thing that I get excited about when we talk to our bank customers who are using custody, they really want us to be their partner or advisor in thinking about our real world asset tokenization.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the buzziest thing right now. But all those use cases, I mean, payments is really foundational to any kind of if you're going to be trading tokens, purchasing all of it, you need that infrastructure to create liquidity and then also settlement to move the assets, from account to account. So I think that things that we have built in payments are very foundational for many different use cases that an FI would venture upon. So yes,
Now, yeah, I mean, listen, this is probably one of the biggest things that I've been fully focused on is the fact that, we are starting to see institutional players more and more interested in the specific things happening around Ripple, like custody or payments, which is all flooding into tokenization. This is all flowing into the tokenization of, essentially everything, which is not just happening on like Ethereum. No, it's happening on the XRP ledger. We know Ripple is fully tapped in on the XRP ledger when it comes to tokenization initiatives, which also leads me back to the 1700 NDAs, right? We have Ripple has signed over 1700 NDAs. More than 1700 financial leaders are already building on Ripple for tokenization. XRP is at the core. If you understand it, you're early. If you're holding it, you're ready. Now, here we have that survey. Tokenization is here to stay. Of the more than 1,700 finance leaders that took part in Ripple's recent global survey, 72% expect to explore tokenization in the next 3 years, solidifying the technology's place as a cornerstone of innovation. The benefits of blockchain can provide businesses the flexibility needed to capitalize on changing market conditions and access a more diverse set of asset classes. What's crazy about this is, this perfectly aligns with the 1,700 contracts that was outlined within the lawsuit documents. And you think that the 1,700 finance leaders that they interviewed is just a coincidental number, that it perfectly aligns with the 1,700 contracts? I don't believe so. And these are 1,700 XRP contracts as well. They specifically name them 1,700 XRP contracts. This is very significant. Now, on top of that, we go over here to this video clip, which was on Bloomberg. This is Tukaram CEO. Ripple with XRP is literally helping tokenize everything. This is the first step towards integrating trade finance with DeFi. This is a breakthrough. Everything's going to tokenize on XRP. This reminds me back to Archix's CEO talking about tokenization on the XRP ledger. Do you guys remember that one where he was talking about $30 to $50 trillion on the XRP ledger all through Archix? Yeah, that's a crazy statement, but it is something that could definitely happen. Now, his time frame was a little bit skewed because he said that it was going to happen by the end of this year. I don't think that that's going to happen, but I do think that very soon we are going to start to see the first trillion hit on chain. From that point on, we quickly scale to the tens of trillions of dollars very fast. And it's definitely something that I'm focused on and I'm very excited about, seeing become a reality. But definitely check this out real quick.
use case that you mentioned, because a lot of folks watching probably would have the reaction, the only use case for Ripple and some of these other tokens out there is speculation. So what is the actual use case of XRP?
Okay, so XRP, that's absolutely not the case. You can speculate in it because it's out there and trading, but XRP, they started Ripple, and I'm not going to speak for them, okay? But they started Ripple to facilitate transactions, moving money around, okay? But now it's literally helping tokenize everything. As they develop their level 2 build out, they are really going to tokenize everything. They've just bought a broker-dealer clearing member, as you may know, and I think that that's the first step toward integrating traditional finance with DeFi. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a breakthrough. It is a breakthrough, but it'll happen slower than people think.
Okay, so the 2x.
Now, of course, when he's talking about them tokenizing everything, this aligns with what Artix's, overall goal with the XRP ledger really was. That's what they predicted, essentially, was, the tokenization of a majority of everything. I mean, $30 to $50 trillion all on the XRP ledger. That's an insane statement. So when we think about this, yeah, it could perfectly align if both of these, statements are true. We got to see what really happens over the course of the next, roughly, I would say, I don't want to say 12 months. I would say 6 months to see how things accelerate around tokenization. Because, I mean, even here, we're hearing from Tokenization CEO saying that, it's going to happen slower than most people anticipate, which, is totally fine. I think that the conservative outlook is far better than this, max bullish outlook. But the fact that we are starting to see these discussions ongoing, and we're starting to see these statements from prominent CEOs, it tells us one thing. XRP is in the spotlight. Tokenization on the XRP ledger is in the spotlight. And Ripple is becoming a big, accelerator of all of this. Now, on top of that, we go all the way back to October 15th of last year, where we had at Ripple Swell, Graham Rodford, the same individual that said 30 to 50 trillion on the XRP ledger. We think every asset will be on chain. Check this out.
What are your thoughts on the technology, aspect of that, and bringing on things like, CSDs into the equation? How do you make these things coexist, but how do you accelerate so you get more benefit?
Yeah, that's probably where I'm a bit more bullish on the adoption of these assets. I mean, we think every asset's going to be on chain. This technology benefits the issuer, the infrastructure, the investor for numerous reasons. So it's inevitable that this is coming. And you mentioned central securities depositories. And for those that don't know, like DTCC, Euroclear, they're kind of the books and records for a lot of publicly traded securities. And every single one of them, Euroclear, Clearstream, DTCC, these guys are looking at tokenization.
And yeah, this is all moving on chain. These are some of the biggest players out there moving massive amounts of money. They're the giants. And if they're doing it, everyone is going to fall into place. It's kind of like when I said, if you see one big bank like JP Morgan or Citi or Bank of America, if they're going on chain, every single big player is going on chain as well. And I think that the same exact thing is happening here with tokenization. The second that we start to see, one big push around DTCC, tokenizing on, I just want to say a random public network, but I don't want to say the XRP ledger, but Algorand, for example, right? If we saw, $10 billion hit Algorand tomorrow from the DTCC, every single network would line up. And the same goes for XRPL. This is why I do think that Graham Rodford was so bullish on the XRPL around 30 to 50 trillion, because he said, if you have one of these players like the DTCC or even Euroclear or, BlackRock, whatever, you start to see them tokenizing on a public network, it's game over. The flood immediately hits. So with that being said, I hope that guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, to notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.